Warhammer 40k. Terra Collector Introduction. This is a dark and crazy world. The chaotic gods sitting in the highest heaven are playing with the fate of humanity, and monsters born from twisted emotions are crazily devouring the flesh and soul of imperial subjects. In this desperate and crazy millennium, there is only endless war among the stars. But, the soul from another world will change all of this. My name is Gao Wen, and I am a collector. Gao Wen, sitting upright on the throne, gazed at Ji Qi. Your brain is good, please let me collect it. This is the last word that the usurper can hear. One collection. The original blood stack. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. The world transition has been completed and the system is initializing, DDDD. Warning. Warning. Advanced signs of divine life activity have been detected. To ensure the safety of the host's life, the system is about to enter low-power sleep mode. The yearbook system has been opened, and rewards for junior collectors are currently being distributed. Reward distribution completed. Welcome to the dark crazy Warhammer 40k universe. First launch, good luck, collector. A series of cold mechanical sounds sounded in Gao Wen's ears like a life-threatening talisman. After a long time, the sound echoing in his mind gradually ceased, and Gao Wen's consciousness regained control of his body. Gao Wen sat up from the cold ground in confusion, and what appeared in front of him was not the familiar ceiling of a bachelor's apartment, but a scene like Purgatory. The strong wind howled with gunpowder, and two dazzling suns hung high in the sky. At this moment, Gao Tatsu is in a battlefield surrounded by burning ruins and walls. Human and green-skinned corpses are scattered like garbage on this scorched soil. The bloody smell permeating the air made Gao Wen almost nauseous, and the unfamiliar and terrifying environment constantly impacted Gao Wen's thoughts. After Gao Wen finally finished reading the logs left by the system, the unlucky guy who had just crossed over fell into even greater despair. As an amateur cloud hammer who only likes to paint chess pieces, Gao Wen is very clear about the meaning represented by the word Warhammer 40k. This is a cesspit, a huge and incomparable cesspit. Whether it is the aging empire or the chaotic gods deep in the subspace, they are all part of this cesspool. Under the malice of the chaotic gods, the lives of mortals are like ants. Except for the golden big guy's bed, there is no place in this universe that can be called absolutely safe. If you are just an ordinary person and happen to be targeted by chaotic demons, then your best choice is to wipe your neck and start over. Compared to the soul becoming the food of demons, death doesn't seem so difficult to accept. This is a world of despair and madness. The only fortunate thing is that Gao Wen has the golden finger that the traveler comes with. The golden finger is called the collector system. As the name suggests, its main focus is on collecting. As long as the host obtains certain items of significant importance, the system can give the host appropriate rewards based on the rarity of these items. Gao Wen spent a few minutes roughly understanding the purpose of the system, then turned his gaze to the only thing in the system backpack. Junior Collector Rewards. The Emperor is here, I hope we can come up with something useful. Gao Wen reached out and lightly tapped the icon on the gift package. The process of opening the gift package has no twists and turns, no dazzling lighting effects, no pleasant music, and even no simple opening animation. With a faint sound, the gift pack icon in the system backpack quietly disappeared, replaced by two cards that appeared in Gao Wen's palm. Collection. Original Blood Stack, 6-star collection. This is a transaction between the Great Emperor and Asia Space, the prelude to the Great Expedition, Loyalty and Betrayal, the Dawn of the Empire, and the End of the Empire collection reward. Give host pathogen level physical fitness, collection. Dark Will, 4-star collectibles. This is the ultimate intention of a 100-war veteran. From now on, nothing can interfere with your will. Collection reward. Unshakable Will. With the illumination of the collection guidebook, a scorching breath began to circulate within Gao Wen's body, and with this breath came terrifying pain like hell. Every corner of the body is lamenting, every piece of skin, every inch of bones, and every nerve is becoming stronger under the extreme pain forging. When Gao Wen opened his eyes again, the frail body belonging to mortals had disappeared, replaced by a terrifying body belonging to the demigod of war. His height of over 4.5 meters allows him to stand tall on the ground, and his hard bones give him terrifying defense. Sharp pupils like eagles and falcons can see a speck of dust hundreds of meters away, and hard muscles like granite contain enough power to make the earth tremble. Even though Gao Wen is naked at this moment, he can still be called the most terrifying war machine in this galaxy. Those green skins still howling on the battlefield don't even know that their end is coming soon. A dozen kilometers away, hundreds of wounded Star Army soldiers are gathering in a temporary bunker. The battle between the Star Army Corps and Green Skin has been ongoing for half a month. The Ministry of Military Affairs has deployed 3-star Realm Army Corps on this planet, and now only these few hundred people remain. Armored vehicles and heavy firepower have been completely destroyed in previous battles. If nothing miraculous happens, the next charge of the Green Skin will completely submerge this temporary bunker. Death was already within reach, but the loyal soldiers of the Emperor paid no attention. For the Great Emperor. The political commissar of the Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps, who had lost his right arm, activated the chainsaw sword. Ladies and gentlemen, may our souls return to the Golden Throne. May the Great Emperor bless us. Soldiers with national religious beliefs prayed softly. Green Skin did not leave too much breathing time for the soldiers. Whack! The disgusting and detestable sound came again, and everyone clenched their weapons in their hands. At the moment when the enemy of the Empire entered range, a raindrop-like laser beam fell in an instant. The roar of the chainsaw sword, the roar of the Green Skin, the roar of the Imperial warriors. Countless voices intertwined at this moment, converging into this tragic final battle. But the outcome of this war seems to have been predetermined. Despite the immense bravery of the Imperial warriors, the Green Skin, like a tide, gradually gained the upper hand. One comrade after another collapsed, but the number of Green Skins did not decrease at all. What is even more despairing is that behind the Green Skin Legion appeared an incredibly large, sturgeon monster. The volume of this biological weapon is so massive that it is terrifyingly large. In front of the sturgeon, the temporary bunkers of the Star Army are like children's toys. The temporary bunker is the ultimate defense line of mortal warriors, and if it is lost, those waiting for these warriors will be submerged by an endless green tide. This war seems to have reached a dead end. But at this moment, the mutation suddenly arises. Look straight at me, brat. A thunderous roar swept through the entire audience. Amidst the piercing sound of a sonic boom, an abandoned steel bar that could be seen everywhere on the battlefield sliced through the sky like a lance of Rankinus, and then accurately hit the massive head of the giant Scrooge. 2 Endless Talasins. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The kinetic energy carried on the steel bar is extremely terrifying. In the face of this force, the sturgeon beast's scales are as hard as steel and fragile as paper. The rusty steel bars easily pierced through the head of the giant beast, and the foul-smelling green blood rained down like raindrops. Both the Imperial warriors and the roaring Green Skin were intimidated by this terrifying blow. Looking in the direction of the steel bar shooting, the surviving Imperial soldiers saw an unforgettable scene in their lifetime. Hundreds of meters away, a death angel over 4.5 meters tall maintains a spear-throwing posture. Under the sunshine, the granite-like muscles of the Angel of Death shine brightly. What impressed ordinary people even more was the buttocks of the Angel of Death, which had been coated by the holy light, and, the Emperor is above. The surviving mortal soldiers exclaimed. Of course, the roaring Green Skins did not intend to give mortals a chance to breathe. The shock that the 4.5-meter tall man brought to the Green Skin did not last long. Soon, the war fever engraved in his genes overwhelmed his fear. The Green Skins are whack up again. These ugly mutants held large guns made up of garbage in their hands and pulled the trigger at Gao Wen with strange cries. The inferior primer was ignited by the firing pin, and sharp fragments shot out from the muzzle. With the blessing of my contemplative power, the bullet power of the big gun is enough to pierce through several centimeters thick steel plates. But these fragments that could penetrate the steel plate fell on Gao Wen, but they did not cause even a little damage to the giant. Such a shocking scene plunged Green Skin into a brief panic. The Green Skins were shouting loudly, but this did not delay the arrival of death. Gao Wen's massive body was like a heavy tank, rampaging across this devastated land. Whether it's a strong orc warrior or a technician with various strange weapons, they are as fragile as a newborn baby in front of a pathogen. The terrifying power of the Angel of Death brought great courage to mortals. The wounded Imperial soldiers pushed open the door of the temporary bunker and together with the Angel of Death, launched a charge towards Green Skin. Even though Gao Wen is currently unarmed, the terrifying power of the genetic pathogen still allows him to crush his green-skinned head like a persimmon. Nothing can stop a pathogen from killing. After Gao Wen joined the battlefield, this war had evolved into a one-sided massacre. When the most powerful orc leader in the Green Skin was casually stripped of his head by Gao Wen, fear finally overwhelmed the war fever imprinted in his genes. The Green Skins scattered and fled with strange cries, and the green, like a tide, disappeared without a trace in an instant. It can be imagined that these fleeing Green Skins will take root and sprout on this land like seeds floating in the breeze. In at most a few decades, this planet will completely turn into a green paradise. Indeed, Gao Wen saved the lives of hundreds of Star Realm soldiers, but the Empire did not win the victory of this war. This planet has been completely polluted by dirty green skin, and what awaits it will be a raging fire covering the entire planet. Everything on the planet, including green skin, will be completely burned down by flames, and this planet will also become a dead world without any growth. For the Empire, this is a humiliating defeat. But no matter what, this war has finally come to an end. The surviving mortal soldiers expressed their highest respect to the Angel of Death. Just as the surviving mortal soldiers were about to say something, a faint hum suddenly came from deep in the ruins in the distance. Accompanied by a buzzing sound is a deep green energy pulse. This unknown energy pulse seems to have the ability to condense space, and under the influence of the pulse, the bodies of mortal warriors are silently condensed in place. On the vast battlefield, only Gung remained able to move freely with his terrifying power. Gao Wen did not feel the aura of spiritual energy from this energy pulse. This is not a psychic spell in subspace, but rather some kind of almost magical technology. Looking at the entire universe, there is no other race capable of using this technology except for the space undead. Salute to you, dear Genoplasma. A hoarse and deep mechanical voice echoed from the depths of the ruins. Forgive me for offending you, your taste is really special. Gao Wen. It has been several hours since Gao Wen traveled, but at this moment, he is still in a bird-walking state. It's not that Gao Wen doesn't want to wear it, it's really harder to find a suitable piece of clothing from the battlefield than to climb to the sky. Green skin can barely be called a wise race, but the clothes on these green skin monsters are only stinky crotch cloth. The military uniform of the Star Realm Army is a good choice, and a few sets of military uniforms combined can barely cover up private parts. But before Gao Wen could ask the Star Army for military uniforms, this annoying space undead froze all the mortal warriors in place. Although Gao Wen is expensive, it is not easy to personally pick someone's clothes. Space undead, can I interpret your speech as provocation? Gao Wen stared at the metal skeleton slowly emerging from the ruins, with an extremely dangerous look in his eyes. How dare I provoke a noble genetic pathogen? The space undead sensed the malice in the pathogen's tone. In the name of the Silent King, I have no malice. Let me introduce myself. My name is Terra Sin, and I am just a collector who likes to collect antiques. Terracin. This is indeed a name worth paying attention to. Endless, cannon fodder sweepers, tomb raiders, custodians of ownerless things, villains who redefine ownerless things, collectors, manipulators. This space undead named Terracin has many titles, and in the dung pit like Warhammer universe, this guy is the kind of existence that resembles a mermaid. Terracin can destroy a world for a collectible, but he can also bring unexpected help to the Empire at certain times. In the near future, Terracin will fight alongside the Empire in the fortress world of Cardia. If there were no Endless Ones, the Empire's situation would be even more dangerous after the fall of Cartier. This is also the reason why Gao Wen did not immediately dismantle Terracin into parts. Terracin, I have heard of your name. Gawain approached the Endless. Tell me your purpose. Of course, respected Genoplasma. Terracin's mechanical voice paused slightly. But before chatting, should you put on some clothes first? The ring worn by the Endless Ones on their knuckles flashed with a faint green light. As the light dissipated, a broad robe suddenly appeared in Terracin's hand. 3 fire lizards. You are listening at novelfull.audio. If I find something wrong with this thing, I will immediately crush your skull. The voice of the pathogen was filled with a strong threat. Terracin only let out a hoarse laugh about this. After all, this threat is basically equivalent to nothing for the Endless Ones who have countless small accounts. Unless the pathogen can find Terracin's true self along the internet cable, what will be destroyed is just a body. The grey robe draped over the body like a cloak, and the rough texture of linen also made Gao Wen's mood joyful. After dispelling the worry of the wind blowing cold, the Genoplasma began to re-examine the alien form in front of it. Terracin, explain your purpose. Gawain repeated his previous words. I will decide whether to remove your head based on your answer. As I mentioned before, I am just a powerless collector. Taliesin shrugged helplessly. I came here just to find a replacement for my damaged collection. Alternative parts. Gao Wen raised his eyebrows. That's right, it's the orc boss you killed, Taliesin said lightly. That orc has the genetic sequence of the Bad Moon clan, which happens to be a missing part of my collection. I'm really sorry for damaging your collection. Please don't worry, Taliesin's voice couldn't hear any emotion. Being able to witness the birth of a pathogen with my own eyes is already a worthwhile trip for me. Under Gao Wen's gaze, Terracin slowly lifted his scepter in his hand. The precision mechanical structure embedded at the top of the scepter blooms with a brilliant green light, which is the unique phase technology of the space undead. Through this technology that humans cannot understand, space undead can navigate ultra-long distances while bypassing subspace. The phase space slowly unfolded, and Terracin's hunched figure disappeared into the phase space as if it had been wiped away by an eraser. But just before the Endless One completely disappeared, the linen robe on the body of the pathogen bloomed with a green light without any warning. Undoubtedly, the Endless Terracin made some moves on this robe. Almost in an instant, the pathogen that realized it had been deceived rushed towards Terracin, who had not yet fully entered the phase space. Thank you for your generous gift. The first robe worn when the pathogen descended into the world will become the most historically significant item in my collection. Taliesin's slightly unreal voice echoed from the phase space. Before planning to run away with clothes stripped of the pathogen, Endless had already calculated everything. This should have been foolproof. But it has been proven that Taliesin still underestimated the power of the genetic pathogen. In the moment before the Endless One was about to disappear, Gao Wen forcefully tore off half of the alien body. The next second, the green light disappears and everything returns to silence. The only difference is that the pathogen of the bird is walking again and the half-metal skeleton in the hand of the pathogen. Gao Wen. Looking at the broken metal skeleton in his hand, Yuan no longer knew what to say. Terracin put in so much effort, just to grab a piece of Gawain's clothes. How to say it? It's very speechless. However, although the clothes that were finally obtained were lost, the pathogen was not completely without harvest. Gao Wen found the phase device of this alien used to store collectibles from the half-body left by Terra. The defense barrier above the device is indeed very strong, but for a powerful pathogen, this level of defense is no different from paper. With a slight force from Gao Wen's palm, the defense barrier from the space undead shattered in response. The collectibles stored in the phase device gushed out like a gusher, and various rare treasures quickly engulfed the ankles of the pathogen. Both Gao Wen and Terra are collectors, but there are obvious differences in the directions they focus on when collecting. Most of the collectibles carried by this clone, Endless, have little significance for the pathogen. There is only one collection that is truly useful to Gao Wen. Collection. Scale of Fire Dragon, Samsung Collectibles. A scale from the armor of the genetic pathogen Volgon Woken. Woken himself may not care about this scale, but for the sons of the Fire Dragons, it represents the glory of the Battle Group Collection reward. A Fire Lizard team of 100 people and corresponding battle barges will join your team. At the moment when the collectible guidebook was illuminated, a huge light curtain slowly unfolded in front of the pathogen. Dong dong dong, the sound of a giant hammer striking steel emanated from the depths of the light curtain, and at that moment, the earth trembled. A team of hundreds of fire lizards walked with heavy steps and approached the pathogen with a slow but firm posture. Salute to you, great pathogen. The sons of the fire dragon struck their chest armor heavily with their right fist to express their respect for a genetic pathogen. Gao Wen remained silent. Yuan just stood still, silently examining the group of fire dragon sons who had joined his command. Surprisingly, there are no fierce men who don't wear helmets. Yu reading www.yuukangshu.net has a negative review. Gao Wen secretly slandered in his heart. Deep underground in the world of death, encowled, a long-abandoned space necromancer's tomb begins to self-activate without warning. The dazzling green light illuminated the pitch-black and lifeless underground, and in a slight roar, the shattered body of the Endless Talasins appeared within an extremely complex installation. After paying the price of losing half of his body, Terra finally completed the phase teleportation. The data processing center of this clone has been damaged by the pathogen, and even the reconstruction system in the necropolis cannot completely repair it without the center. In other words, Terra's clone has been completely destroyed. What a terrifying force! In the darkness, Terra approached the clone with a mechanical scepter in hand. The Endless does not care about this completely damaged high-level body. The only thing that interests collectors is the linen robe brought back by this clone. A qualified collectible. Talasin's hoarse voice was filled with satisfaction. Unfortunately, no one can share this satisfaction with him except for the unwise structure of the underworld. At the same time, on the battle barge of the Fire Lizard, the genetic pathogen sat on the temporary throne built by the salamanders, staring at the moment with an inexplicable gaze. 137.m41. This is a very concerning point in time. On a timeline without any external interference, Chaos War Chief Abarton will launch the 12th Black Expedition in 2 years. Just like the previous 11 Black Expeditions, Abaddon's 12th Black Expedition still ended in failure. For Purgatory Stars. You are listening at novelfull.audio. But for the Empire, the victory of this war is not worth celebrating or remembering. Chaos Warlord did indeed lose the victory of the Gothic War, but at the same time, a conspiracy capable of overturning the entire galaxy is brewing. Abaddon had already obtained what he most wanted in the Gothic War. The ancient alien creation, the Blackstone Fortress. From the moment Blackstone Fortress fell into the hands of Abaddon, the Empire's eternal glory had already entered the countdown. When Abaddon leads the Chaos Legion to launch the 13th Black Expedition several hundred years later, the Blackstone Fortress lost in the Gothic War will become the culprit behind the fall of Cartier. The black stone obelisk on Cartia possesses the power to suppress the Eye of Fear. At the moment when the fortress world was destroyed, an endless force of chaos surged out of the Eye of Fear. This powerful chaotic force tore apart the Milky Way and completely divided the Empire's territory into two parts. Tens of thousands of imperial worlds have fallen in the midst of blood and howls, and over 1 trillion imperial subjects have become offerings to evil gods and provisions for demons. The fear and pain before human death tore apart the curtains of reality and illusion, and the intense emotions like a tide stirred up an eternal echo in the subspace that is an incredibly dark and desperate future. Even Robert, the genetic pathogen of extreme warriors. Kilimon recovered from his eternal slumber and could not stop the malice from the chaotic gods. From the moment Cartier fell, the fate of the Empire's decline was predetermined. The best way to prevent the fall of Cartia is to find those two alien creations that can manipulate Blackstone Fortress before Chaos Warlord Abaddon. Dark Hand and Dark Eye. The current Empire knows nothing about these two alien creations, but as a traveler, Gao Wen is very clear about their whereabouts. The Eye of the Dark is located in the nest world of Onswold in the Gothic region, while the Hand of the Dark is located on a dead world called the Purgatory Star in the Taiping Star domain. Coincidentally, the position of the Fire Lizard's battle barge at this moment is not far from the Purgatory Star. With the use of subspace engines, combat barges only need to navigate through several hours of subspace to reach the universe near Purgatory Star. For a vast empire, this distance can be almost negligible. Under the will of the genetic pathogen, the battle barge, along with the son of the fire dragon, began to operate vigorously. The engine of the combat barge emitted a deafening roar, and high concentrations of liquid promethium were converted into a continuous stream of energy, guided by pipelines, flowing into the subspace engine and the Geller position generator. With the support of massive energy, the subspace engine briefly tore apart the curtain between reality and illusion, opening a crack to the subspace for combat barges. Open Galer's position, lower the porthole guard, everyone be aware, the warship is about to enter subspace. The captain's slightly plain voice reached everyone's ears. The pale purple Geller stance slowly unfolded, and the protective panels installed on the side of the string window slowly closed, separating the cabin personnel from the crazy subspace. In the flickering light, the warship officially entered a state of subspace navigation. It can be foreseen that this is not a very long subspace voyage. A few hours later, the battle barge arrived at its scheduled location. Gao Wen stood up from the throne and, surrounded by the sons of the fire dragon, approached the porthole of the warship. What caught the eye was an incredibly massive black celestial body. The surface of the planet is covered with burnt ashes, and toxic gases drifting in the breeze block the sky and sun. This is Purgatory Star, a world of death that once betrayed the Empire and was completely burned down by the flames of destruction. The alien creation of the Dark Hand, which is capable of influencing the future of the entire Empire, is quietly sleeping in a corner of this planet. Just as the pathogen was planning to order a scan of this planet, the bird diviner responsible for detecting the enemy suddenly sounded a piercing alarm. According to the data displayed on the bird divination instrument, 2 chaotic warships are floating in the orbit of the Purgatory Star. This time point appears on the chaotic battleship of Purgatory Star, and its purpose is self-evident. It seems to be one step slower. A cold light flashed through Gao Wen's pupils. The current situation is very unfavorable for the Empire. 2 chaotic warships hold an absolute power advantage, and compared to warships blessed by the chaotic gods, the Fire Lizard's battle barge is as fragile as a small biscuit. A frontal hard landing is definitely not feasible, but flying through an orbit to the planet's surface. This is also a very risky choice. If the whereabouts are exposed, then the orbital attack from the Chaos battleship is waiting for the Primordial and Fire Dragon sons. Even the powerful Estat is not much stronger than the mortals of the Star Army in the face of orbital bombing. After careful consideration, Yu reading www.yuukangshu.net decided to take a risk and give it a try. The Dark Hand is really too important for the Empire. To avoid that dark and crazy future, all the adventures and sacrifices are worth it. The sons of the Fire Dragon showed high agreement with the decision of the pathogen. As the death angels of the Emperor, estates never fear death. For a stat, being able to die on the battlefield is a great honor. For the great Emperor. The estates chanted the ancient oath in unison. This is the final preparation before the expedition. The technical sergeant is busy with the final adjustment of the power armor, while the fire lizards take out a brand new set of armor from the forge and solemnly hang it on the body of the original. As the offspring of Woken, every fire lizard is a born blacksmith. Thanks to the powerful forging techniques of the fire lizards, Gao Wen finally got rid of the dilemma of walking birds. Although this powertrain, which was hastily built using spare parts, still lacks performance. But for Gao Wen, it is already enough. Betrayers on the Purgatory star, it's best to pray that they won't collide head-on with Gao Wen. Without the same level of combat power, no one can resist a genetic pathogen. Except for a few fierce men who don't wear helmets, all those who dare to attack the pathogen are now about tens of meters tall. The sons of the fire dragons gathered around the genetic pathogen and entered the airborne module. Under the calculation of the technical soldiers, the dark green painted orbital airborne module was thrown out by a combat barge. The airborne module carrying the Angel of Death slashed through the planet's thin atmosphere, like a sparkling meteor shower, landing heavily on the planet's charred plains. 5 Chaos Star Warrior. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The impact that was enough to make the earth tremble raised ashes in the sky, and more than a dozen airborne pods were like ancient stone towers, deeply embedded in this charred earth. The pressure valve installed on top of the airborne module automatically activates, and with the hissing sound of the airflow, the cabin door quickly lowers. Under the leadership of Gen, fully armed Estat officially embarked on this barren world of death. The sky is filled with ashes, the fierce winds of destruction, the lifeless earth, the suffocating Angel of Death. Today the scene is as stunning as an epic battle in an oil painting. The destination of Gao Wen and the Sons of the Fire Dragon is a nest ruins located 6 kilometers away from the landing site. Before executing the orbital airborne mission, the Fire Lizard think tank used its powerful psychic power to glimpse a corner of the future through crazy subspaces. And in the future seen by the think tank, the alien creation, the Dark Hand, is hidden deep within this ruins. A distance of 6 kilometers may be far, but for the Emperor's Angel of Death, this distance is fleeting. After a brief rapid march, Gen and the Sons of the Fire Dragon arrived at the location seen by the think tank in the spiritual prophecy. That is a ruins covered in ashes, or it would be more accurate to describe this ruins as the remains of the Nest City. 3,000 years ago, when this planet had not yet deviated from the glory of the Golden Throne, there were over 1.5 billion imperial subjects living in this nest. But with the betrayal of the planetary governor, the once bustling nests have become footnotes of history. If it weren't for the Dark Hand, no one would have stepped on it again. The meditator system mounted on Estat's arm stores all information about this nest. But today, thousands of years later, most of the information has become meaningless garbage. The only thing the Sons of the Fire Dragon can be certain of is that they are currently located in the planting area of the Nest City, and advancing 3 kilometers further is the true entrance to the Nest City. On the way to continue advancing towards the entrance of the nest, numerous mixed footprints appeared one after another. According to the think tank, he felt a chaotic aura from these footprints. Undoubtedly, these footprints belong to Estat of the Chaos Legion. Be vigilant. Gao Wen drew out the standard chainsaw sword from behind. We are already very close to the enemy. In the name of the Emperor, traitors must pay the price for their actions. For the great Emperor. The Sons of the Fire Dragon responded in unison. At this moment, the Fire Lizard warrior responsible for guarding in the distance suddenly issued a warning to everyone. After a moment, footsteps came from the ruins in the distance. Gao Wen raised his head cautiously and looked into the distance. Beyond the exposed steel plates and cement, at the end of the line of sight, a chaotic interstellar warrior team covered in pollution and mutations is walking towards the direction where the Sons of the Fire Dragon are located. From the behavior of these traders, it seems that they did not detect the presence of the pathogen and the fire lizards. Since it's an encounter, it's very easy to handle. The salamander warriors hid among the layers of ruins, and as the betrayer passed in front of them, the roar of the explosive gun sounded like thunder. For traders blessed by the gods, the damage that a shotgun can cause is very limited. However, even so, this round of salvo killed nearly 1/5 of the traders. After a moment of panic, the betrayers quickly regained their fighting posture and prepared to organize a counterattack while cursing. But Yuan did not intend to give the betrayer a chance to counterattack. The estates withdrew their explosive guns from their waists, and then the roar of the chainsaw sword echoed through the land. Gao Wen raised his roaring chainsaw sword and charged towards the front of the team like a sharp knife. The Sons of the Fire Dragon followed along with the original body, forming an extremely compact combat formation. The charge of the pathogen and Estat carried a suffocating aura, and every step the Death Angels took, the earth trembled a little. On the other hand, on the betrayer's side, in order to ensure that the operation to seize the Dark Hand was flawless, Chaos Warlord Abaddon dispatched his confidant Estat, who was once a member of the Horus Sons Legion. As veterans who have experienced countless battles, there should be nothing in this world that can make them feel scared anymore. But the fact proves that these betrayers are still too naive. In the face of a charge led by the pathogen, a long-lost sense of fear once again enveloped these eternal veterans. That kind of fear does not come from emotions, but from some kind of instinctive impulse deep in genes. That is an uncontrollable fear. On the cruel battlefield, fear means flaws. At the moment when the betrayers were stunned, the Sons of the Fire Dragon had already launched a crazy attack. Betrayer, go to hell and repent. A salamander let out an angry roar. Although the Horus Rebellion, which swept across the entire empire for thousands of years, the Sons of the Fire Dragon still cannot forget the brutal massacre at the landing point. Yu reading www.yuyukangshu.net. That was a premeditated betrayal, and it was also a massacre without any fairness or mercy. That brutal war almost burned down the Fire Lizard Legion, General Volgon. Woken himself was killed by his own brother. If it weren't for the Fire Dragon Lord inheriting the Emperor's ability as the Immortal, then Woken would likely have become the first pathogen to die in the Horus Rebellion. The anger from combat brothers and pathogens is imprinted in the genes of the Fire Lizard, and nothing can wash away this suffocating rage except the blood of the betrayer. War is on the verge of breaking out. A Fire Lizard warrior held up his power hammer and smashed it fiercely towards the head of a betrayer. The blue and purple electric light envelopes the power hammer, and terrifying forces converge within this weapon. Accompanied by a dull sound, the power hammer directly shattered the betrayer's helmet and also shattered his head. Helmet fragments mixed with filthy red and white objects were scattered from the air, and the bloodied Fire Lizard warrior was as terrifying as a demon walking out of hell. Well done. Gao Wen casually split a betrayer in half and gave a thumbs up for the revenge of the Fire Dragon Sons. In the span of more than 10 minutes from the start of the battle to now, more than 20 traitors have been killed by the pathogens. These are all Abaddon's confidants and eternal veterans who have experienced the Horus Rebellion. Normally, losing a few can make Chaos Warlord feel heartbroken for a long time, but now it's gone all at once. Gao Wen had already begun to look forward to the expression on Abaddon's face. At the moment when the pathogen was distracted, the despicable traitor seized the opportunity to launch a surprise attack. 6-track bombing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A Chaos Star warrior, whose body was imprinted with chaos runes and clearly taller than other traitors, rushed out of the ruins and launched a powerful and heavy jump towards Gao Wen. Undoubtedly, this is a chaotic divine selection with far greater strength than ordinary traitors. Chaos Divine Selection. Gao Wen's eyes were filled with disdain. It's too weak, you can't even make me feel a little sense of crisis. Gao Wen's undisguised contempt deeply pierced the heart of Chaos Shinshin. Between the lightning and flint, the chainsaw sword exuding a sense of decay had reached the head of the pathogen. In just a moment, the chainsaw sword, blessed by chaos, will be able to cut open Gao Wen's neck. And Gao Wen's head will become the most dazzling trophy of this chaos god selection. But ideals are full, reality is very bone-like. The chaos god was chosen for his lightning-fast speed, which in the eyes of Genji was not even as fast as the 80-year-old Nest Lady. The standard chainsaw sword in Gao Wen's hand let out a roar, and a fierce wind blew past. Immediately, the world in Chaos God's eyes began to spin. Until the last moment before his head landed, this pitiful betrayer was still fantasizing about killing pathogens. The stunning combat power of Genjen has greatly inspired the sons of the Fire Dragon. "Charge with me," shouted the commander of the Fire Lizard Squad, "only the blood of a betrayer can wash away the anger and hatred flowing deep in the soul." The Fire Lizard Squad once again launched a charge, with 3 completely different emotions of excitement, hatred, and rage, greatly enhancing the combat effectiveness of the estates. With the assistance of genetic pathogens, this battle has turned into a devastating massacre. Betrayers have also tried to resist, but who can resist a genetic pathogen? The number of traitors is decreasing at a visible rate to the naked eye. The raging fire lizards killed their heads and blood flowed like a river. Amidst the roar of the faithful, the head of the last betrayer rolled into dust. At this point, the betrayers have paid the price for their blasphemy. Unfortunately, this battle did not end there. After losing contact with ground forces for several hours, the chaotic warship anchored in the planet's orbit had already detected something unusual. After confirming the presence of loyalists on the surface, the Chaos battleship launched an orbital strike at the first opportunity. In an instant, dense artillery fire fell from the sky like raindrops. A scorching laser, a light spear shrouded in the power of filth, a grand cannon covered in mutated substances, the almost endless artillery fire covered the entire land, and in a very short time, the place where the estates were originally located became a deep and bottomless pit. The bodies of the traitors remaining on it, along with the ashes on the ground, were scorched into diamond-like crystals by the terrifying heat generated by the orbital bombing. Under such terrifying artillery fire, no creature can survive unscathed. Even a powerful imperial parent-child cannot escape the fate of being reduced to ashes in the heat and shockwaves. In the command cabin of the Chaos battleship, Black Legion Lord, Destroyer, Carlos is watching the deep pit on the surface with satisfaction. Despite sacrificing the lives of nearly 100 ancient veterans, the Black Legion ultimately laughed to the end in this war. The alien creation, Dark Hand, recovered from the Purgatory star will become the biggest trump card in the hands of the Chaos Warlord. In the near future, the Black Legion will eventually lead Chaos to completely destroy the Empire. At the thought of countless empires howling in pain and despair, Carlos could feel a thrill of trembling from the depths of his soul. Of course, the current situation is clearly not suitable for imagining the future. After all, the Purgatory star is the territory of the Empire, and the Chaos warship staying here for a long time can easily attract the attention of the Empire. To avoid long dreams at night, it's best to retrieve the Dark Hand as soon as possible. Drive the warship into the planet's atmosphere, deliver the airborne module to the planet's surface, and prepare for the recovery mission. For the sake of Chaos Warlord, glory and victory will ultimately belong to us. Carlos's face was filled with enthusiasm for Chaos Warchief. In order to avoid any further mistakes on this trip, the Black Legion Lord will lead his own guard to personally carry out the recycling mission. At the same time, deep in the ruins of the nest, Genoplasma and the Sons of the Fire Dragon did not turn into ashes as the traitors imagined. Even before the orbital bombing, the pathogen had already sensed the impending crisis. Just before the artillery fire was about to cover the Earth, Gen led the Sons of the Fire Dragon to hide in the strongest structural layer of the nest. In the absence of direct bombing, the structural layer where loyalists are located can be considered the safest place. But safety is only temporary. The chaotic battleship is still eyeing the sky, and the betrayers will never leave easily until they have obtained the Dark Hand. When the traces of the Sons of the Fire Dragon are once again exposed to the Black Legion, the betrayers will definitely use all means to completely annihilate all loyalists. Yu reading www.yuukangshu.net. In terms of the firepower equipped on the two chaotic warships, it is not difficult to thoroughly plow the land around the ruins of Chengdu, covering an area of 100 kilometers, using orbital bombing. Just as the loyalists were in a dilemma, another unexpected visitor outside of the Purgatory star visited this place of death that had not been visited for thousands of years. That is a golden warship with magnificent livery, and an immensely large Gothic-style church stands on it. A pure and resounding hymn is played in the church, with an epic and majestic aura rushing towards us. From the emblem imprinted on the side of the warship, it can be seen that this warship belongs to the throne court. And those who are qualified to sail the battleships of the throne court are only the Watchers of the Throne. The Forbidden Army. After the Horus Rebellion, the great emperor was forced to ascend to the Golden Throne due to his severe injuries. The powerful Order of the Forbidden Army voluntarily took on the responsibility of guarding the throne. For thousands of years since then, the Forbidden Army has been guarding before the Golden Throne. The legend left by the Golden Legion in the galaxy also disappeared without a trace as the Forbidden Army retreated. Today, the names of the Forbidden Army and the Golden Legion will once again resound through this dark and crazy galaxy. The Forbidden Warship had no intention of hiding itself. As soon as the warship entered the atmosphere of the planet, the Golden Legion launched a fierce raid on the Chaos Warship. The jumping torpedo loaded with the Forbidden Army cultivators slid out of the torpedo compartment. Amidst the horrified gaze of the betrayer, the hot melt rays installed at the front end of the hopper torpedo self-activated, and the terrifying heat instantly melted through the side deck of the Chaos battleship. Accompanied by a dull roar, several tons of jumping torpedoes fiercely crashed into the gap on the side, crushing several traders who came to inspect the situation into meat sauce. 7 Chaos Divine Selection Champion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In a muffled sound of the airflow, the hatch of the jumping torpedo slowly opened. The milky white low-temperature gas diffused between the cabins, accompanied by a suffocating sense of killing. Those who deviate from the glory of the Emperor will be killed without mercy. A voice as cold as metal came, "In the name of the Forbidden Army, I grant you death." A golden guard spear shot out from the depths of the white mist. In front of this weapon that embodies the pinnacle of imperial technology, the power armor blessed by the gods is as ridiculous as paper. The garrison spear effortlessly pierced through the chests of the two betrayers, then pierced through the metal partition of the warship with a deafening roar and nailed to the cold deck. Faced with the murderous guard of the Forbidden Army in front of them, the betrayers looked at each other with fear on their faces. As ancient veterans who have experienced the Horus Rebellion, they certainly understand what the word Forbidden Army means. Every birth of the Forbidden Army is a miraculous reproduction. Unlike Estat's crude organ implantation surgery, the Forbidden Army created using genetic technology and biological alchemy can be considered a work of art. Even a newly emerged Forbidden Army from the training module is capable of easily crushing a team of interstellar warriors. In that magnificent expedition, it was precisely because of the joint efforts of the Forbidden Army and the Star Warriors that the Empire's territory was able to expand to most of the Milky Way in a short period of time. Some members of the Black Legion once fought alongside the Forbidden Army, and it was precisely because of this that they were very aware of the terror of these golden giants. At the moment the Forbidden Army appeared, all the traitors present had already been sentenced to death. All struggles are in vain, and death will come as scheduled. Planet surface. At this moment, the sons of Gen and Fire Dragon are not aware of the changes that have occurred inside the Chaos battleship. Under the will of the Genoplasma, the commander of the Fire Lizard Squad led 80% of Estat to the deeper ruins of the Nest City. The task received by the Fire Lizard commander is to use all means possible to destroy the Dark Hand in situations where it is impossible. Meanwhile, Gen will lead the remaining Fire Lizard warriors to drag down the progress of the Black Legion as much as possible. For the Salamander warriors who follow along with the pathogen, this battle may be the last battle of their lives. But as previously mentioned, as the Death Angels of the Emperor, the estates never fear death. They are all the sons of the glorious Fire Dragon, and they will carry the flag of the Fire Lizard and stand on the battlefield until the last moment. The betrayer came faster than the pathogen imagined. Through some unknown subspace spell, the psychic wizards in the Black Legion saw the location of the Dark Hand. Along with the Dark Hand, there are also Genoplasma and Estat who surround him. The average Estat is under 2.8 meters tall, and even the infamous Fire Lizard Legion, known for its silly size and thick body, rarely has an individual over 3 meters tall. But Gao Wen, who was surrounded by the sons of the Fire Dragon in the center, reached a terrifying height of 4.5 meters. Without a doubt, that is a powerful imperial parent-child. Such a terrifying discovery shocked the psychic wizard. But when the psychic wizard informed Carlos of his discovery, the Black Legion Lord did not show too much composure. As a member who has personally experienced the massacre at the landing point, Carlos knows one thing very well. Every pathogen is extremely powerful, but they are not invincible. Just like Ferris back then. Manus, like St. Gillis, as long as the damage caused is sufficient, even the imperial family cannot escape the fate of falling. Carlos is one of the few chaotic believers in the Black Legion with a certain faith. As the champion of the Chaos God of Terror, Carlos's strength is naturally beyond doubt. In extremely angry situations, Carlos can even unleash strength comparable to the Genoplasma before ascending to the demon. For believers of evil gods, even the genetic pathogen is just a slightly stronger mortal without awakening the essence of the subspace. Carlos has ample confidence to behead Gawain. In the father of genes, Horus. Today, 10,000 years after the fall of Lupicar, the offspring of Horus will once again kill a genetic pathogen. With the help of subspace witchcraft, the traitors of the Black Legion quickly came to the face of the pathogen. More than 300 Black Legion veterans, along with Carlos, the chosen champion of the God of Terror. It can be imagined that this will be an extremely difficult battle. Gao Wen lifted the chainsaw sword in his hand, and the sons of the Fire Dragon arched around Gung, ready to face the battle. The betrayers of the Black Legion had an absolute advantage in number, but to the surprise of the original, the Black Legion Lord Carlos was not in a hurry to order an attack. "Salute to you, respected Genoplasma." Carlos, muscular and tangled, approached Genoplasma and made an extremely blasphemous gesture to Gao Wenqing. "I don't need the respect of a betrayer." The pupils of the pathogen were filled with indifference. "The chaotic aura on your body makes me nauseous. I don't care what you think of me." Carlos began to emit a crimson aura, and an unparalleled terrifying force was brewing within the betrayer's body. "As a believer of the Lord of Brass, I only worship power. I only need a thrilling battle, an exhilarating death struggle." Carlos' chainsaw sword began to roar in his hand. "This battle is both decisive and life and death. Please witness the great Lord of Brass. I will personally kill an emperor's son today." Carlos was filled with crazy roars echoing on the ruins. His bloody fighting will tearing apart the curtains of reality and illusion, and reaching straight to the sky above. The Lord of the Skull, sitting on the brass throne, opened his eyes, and this bloody fighting will made terror feel a long-lost pleasure. Compared to the death struggle of a selected champion, the battle in the bloody arena before us is just a small skirmish. For the first time in hundreds of years, the Lord of Brass moved his gaze away from the bloody arena and cast his gaze towards the physical universe. "At the end of my line of sight, I saw the chosen champion Carlos. Among all the selected champions, Carlos is the type more favored by Satophobia. Every decade or so, the Black Legion Lord would offer a grand and magnificent death to the Lord of Brass. The gaze of the Lord of 8 Brass. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Every sacrifice of Carlos can perfectly please the Lord of Brass. So, fearful massacre generously blessed this chosen champion. The dazzling blood-red light flowed on Carlos, and the blessing from the Lord of Brass allowed the selected champion's strength to skyrocket to a level in a very short period of time. Nowadays, Carlos even surpasses the Red Sand Lord Onlan before his ascension in terms of pure power. Do you see that the great Lord of Brass has blessed me? Carlos smiled slightly crazily, and the corpse emperor sitting on the golden throne will only watch you walk towards death. Have you said enough? The chainsaw sword in Genoplasma's hand let out a piercing roar. If you have said enough, prepare to welcome the death bestowed upon you by the emperor. You are even more arrogant than the former Ruth. Carlos also raised the chainsaw axe called Blood Dog Bite. Your head and blood will become the best sacrifice on the brass throne. War is on the verge of breaking out. The terrifying champion of the election roared with meaningless words and launched a fierce charge towards the genetic pathogen. The chainsaw axe, blessed by the Lord of Brass, fell straight towards the head of the genoplasma like a red lightning bolt. A nauseating and bloody aura rushed towards him, and under the blessing of terror and abuse, Carlos's movements could not even be seen by the powerful angel of death. The face of the selected champion showed a cruel smile, as if he had already seen the scene of the genetic pathogen separating from his body under his own hands. But then, the betrayer's smile solidified on his face. Carlos still underestimated Gao Wen's terrifying power. The body of the genetic pathogen did not move at all, but the roaring chainsaw sword accurately struck the wrist of the selected champion. The rapidly rotating serrations cut through the power armor blessed by the gods, and dazzling sparks scattered like raindrops. Even if he becomes the chosen champion, his joints are still the most vulnerable part of a stat's body. The terrifying force carried by the chainsaw sword shattered the betrayer's wrist, and the chainsaw axe emitting a bloody aura was shot into the air by the pathogen. As this detestable weapon spun and plunged into the ground, the killing battlefield fell into a eerie silence in an instant. Unable to hold on to one's own weapon means death on the battlefield. As a veteran who had experienced a great expedition before, Carlos knew this better than Gawain. Are you ready to go to hell to repent? The voice of Genoplasma, devoid of any emotion, reached Carlos' ear. The selected champion covers his unconscious wrist, desperately trying to retrieve the weapon he released. But it is foreseeable that he has failed. Just before Carlos's palm touched the blood dog bite, Gung used his chainsaw sword to nail him to the ground. The roaring chainsaw sword pierced through the weakest connection of the power armor, mercilessly cutting through the betrayer's spine. At this point, the chosen champion, who was deeply favored by terror and abuse, no longer had the ability to resist. The God-selected champion of terror and abuse and the genetic pathogen, this should have been an evenly matched battle. But now, it ends hastily in a slightly hasty way. The Skull Lord, sitting upright on the brass throne, gazed at all of this, and it was clear that this hasty battle did not bring joy to the terror and abuse. So, the Lord of Brass once again bestowed blessings on the chosen champion Carlos. However, this blessing seemed extremely fatal to Carlos. Under the will of the brass throne, an almost endless force of chaos flooded into Carlos's body. At the beginning, these forces from terror did make Carlos even stronger. Feeling the sense of strength filling his muscles, the selected champion Carlos felt that he was capable again. But soon, the constant influx of chaotic power pushed Carlos's body to its limit. The pain of tearing through every corner of the body, like countless cuts and cuts, is so terrifying that even a resilient veteran cannot bear it. The chosen champion attempted to pray to the Lord of Brass, but his attempt undoubtedly failed. At the moment Carlos released his weapon, he had already lost the favor of the Lord of Brass. But terror will not abandon its chosen champion, it will only turn the champion into a more terrifying disposable weapon. The blessings of the brass throne continue to pour in, and Carlos's chilling cries echo on the battlefield. The almost condensed power of chaos has overflowed Carlos's body, and the current selected champion is like a balloon filled with water, ready to be overwhelmed by the incoming power of chaos at any time. The sudden vision shocked everyone present, and as they looked at Carlos in pain and wailing, the pathogen keenly sensed a hint of danger. No matter what happened to Carlos, interrupting him now is the best option. Yuan picked up the chainsaw axe from the ground and threw it fiercely towards the chosen champion. Yu reading www.yuukangshu.net. Under the blessing of the terrifying power of the original, this heavy weapon instantly broke through the speed of sound. With a thunderous sonic boom, the chainsaw axe hit Carlos heavily on his chest. The power armor, blessed by the gods, instantly sank, and the two hearts, sternum, and spine of the chosen champion were almost instantly shattered by this terrifying force. Even for traders who fall into chaos, this degree of injury is basically inevitable. But what is shocking is that Carlos did not die. Supported by a massive chaotic force, the injuries on the selected champion's body are recovering at an astonishing speed. However, this kind of recovery is not a good thing. All gifts from the subspace have already been marked with a price in secret. The blessings of the gods can indeed make people stronger, but if the recipient's body cannot bear this blessing, then the blessing will become a curse. The final outcome of waiting for the recipient will be twisted into a strange-shaped chaotic egg by the power of chaos. Under the immense generosity of the Lord of Brass, the body of the chosen champion has collapsed. Bone spurs extension, skin peeling, uncontrolled muscle growth, various nauseating flesh and blood distortions began to appear on Carlos. After a short period of more than 10 seconds, the originally tall Chaos Champion had lost half of his human form. What appears in front of the loyal is a twisted meat mountain with a body size of up to 8 meters. The soul belonging to Carlos has been devoured by Chaos, leaving only a deformed body named Chaos Egg behind. Chaos Eggs possess power comparable to that of Chaos Demons, but their inherent properties are very unstable, and most of them can only survive for a few hours. 9 Desperate Situations. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A few hours may not sound long, but for loyalists and even the Black Legion present, this period is a boundary between life and death. The chaotic egg overflowed by the power of terror and abuse cannot distinguish between enemy and self. Almost at the moment when the Lord of Brass stopped blessing, the twisted Chaos Egg began to take action. Dozens of whips made up of pure muscles extend from this meat mountain, and under the drive of instinct, the Chaos Egg will destroy all creatures that appear in sight. The blood-drenched muscle whip flashed through the air like lightning, and the sound of breaking the wind echoed in everyone's ears like the roar of a ghost. The Black Legion betrayer closest to the Chaos Egg suffered first. In the face of the terrifying attack from Chaos Egg, the eternal veterans of the Black Legion surprisingly had no resistance like mortals. Whether it's a chainsaw sword or a shotgun, they will only leave an inconspicuous white mark on Chaos Egg. And every swing of the Chaos Egg can accurately take away the life of a betrayer. This is not a battle at all, but an unquestionable massacre. The number of Black Legions is decreasing at a visible speed to the naked eye. Before the entire army was destroyed, the traders also attempted to seek help from the chaotic warships anchored in planetary orbits, but unfortunately, there was only piercing white noise in the communication channel. No one responded to their plea for help. It's like 2 massive chaotic warships evaporated out of thin air. Under the fierce attack of Chaos Egg, the betrayers ultimately failed to escape the end of destruction. Except for a few lucky ones who managed to escape, the ground troops of the Black Legion were almost completely destroyed. When the last betrayer attempting to escape was crushed into flesh by a long whip, Chaos Egg turned its gaze towards the Loyalists. The sons of the Fire Dragons, who were gathered around Gen, raised their explosive guns. Although Gawain was not their genetic father, the estates would still defend Gen with their lives. When facing Loyalists, Chaos Egg did not launch an attack recklessly like before when slaughtering the Black Legion. Although the soul has been devoured by the power of chaos, the Chaos Egg can still feel the dangerous aura emanating from the body with its beast-like instincts. However, after all, Chaos Egg is just a twisted creation without a deity. After several attempts, Chaos Egg's patience has been completely worn away. Amidst the solemn gaze of the pathogen, Chaos Egg wriggled its bulky body like a giant maggot and approached the faithful. Faced with the raging Chaos Egg, Gao Wen had no intention of retreating. Yuan lifted the chainsaw sword in his hand and launched a charge towards the direction where the Chaos Egg was located. The earth is trembling, and every step taken by Gao Wen will leave a deep footprint on the ground. Nothing can stop the charge of a pathogen, even the whip that slaughtered hundreds of ancient veterans is no exception. Everything that dared to stand in front of the pathogen was torn to pieces by the chainsaw sword, and in the blink of an eye, Gao Wen had already arrived in front of the Chaos Egg. The roaring chainsaw sword thrust fiercely towards the ferocious mouth of Chaos Egg, and the rapidly rotating serrations tore at the monster's flesh and blood, emitting a foul-smelling red liquid that splashed out like raindrops. Intense pain is invading the nerves of Chaos Egg. Under painful stimulation, this detestable monster grew dozens of long whips again, and then fiercely attacked the nearby genetic pathogen. High Text wants to repeat the old trick, using the chainsaw sword in his hand to tear these long whips apart. But at the moment it pierced into the body of the Chaos Egg, the chainsaw sword had already been devoured by the monster's flesh and blood. Even with the terrifying power of the genetic pathogen, it is impossible to pull out the chainsaw sword in a short period of time. In this situation, the pathogen can only withdraw and dodge. But when faced with the continuous attack of chaotic eggs like a tide, blindly dodging will eventually lead to negligence. Chaos Egg seized the moment when the pathogen made a mistake and launched a fierce attack with several long whips. With excellent physical fitness, Gao Wen dodged most of the attacks from Chaos Egg as he moved around. But unfortunately, in the end, there was still a long whip that bypassed the defense of the pathogen. The bloody whip flashed like lightning, and Gao Wen only felt a terrifying force strike. The next moment, the power armor crafted by the Sons of the Fire Dragon shattered in response. The attack of Chaos Egg not only shattered the power armor of the pathogen, but also left a deep visible bone scar on the pathogen's shoulder. A faint golden blood flowed out of the wound, and the air was filled with a strange sweet smell. Before awakening the essence of the subspace, the genetic pathogen was ultimately just a slightly stronger mortal. Protect the pathogen. The Sons of the Fire Dragon, who had been on the edge of the battlefield, gathered beside the injured pathogen. The roar of the explosive gun rang out at this moment. Fragments shot out from the barrel like raindrops, but they were enough to penetrate tank armor, but could not cause any damage to the wriggling Chaotic Egg. The estate's counterattack angered the Chaos Egg. This huge meat mountain temporarily gave up chasing the pathogen and instead controlled its long whip to start hunting and killing Estat. The glory and loyalty of the Sons of the Fire Dragon are beyond doubt. Even though their power cannot resist the powerful Chaos Egg, they are still doing everything they can to buy time for the recovery of the pathogen. The Fire Lizard think tank, which had been following the body of the pathogen, held high the spiritual scepter in his hand. This loyal warrior, at the cost of his own soul, released a stunning spiritual lightning bolt. The blue and golden spiritual lightning pierced through the sky like a wandering dragon, and in a piercing sound of electric current, this terrifying spiritual spell fiercely bombarded the body of Chaos Egg. This attack, which condensed the soul and life of the Fire Lizard think tank, did not come back in vain like the previous attacks. As the dust stirred up by the explosion dissipated, a nauseating and scorching smell spread, and a spark-filled burn appeared on the body of Chaos Egg. This hit successfully injured this detestable monster. But this does not allow the situation to develop on a positive side. Under the painful stimulation, the attack of Chaos Egg became even more violent. The Sons of the Fire Dragon fell one after another, but Gao Wen was powerless to do anything about it. The deep sense of powerlessness pierced Gao Wen's heart, and the pupils of the pathogen flickered with almost solidified rage. This pure and intense anger made the terror sitting on the brass throne feel unparalleled pleasure. Since Ong Lan, the Lord of the Red Sands, ascended to the demon, fearful rage has never felt such pure anger again. 10 Living Saints. Celestine. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Such pure anger deserves a reward. The Lord of Brass bestowed a blessing from fury upon the angry genetic pathogen. This blessing does not carry any pollution from subspace, it will only make the pathogen stronger, strong enough to easily kill the chaotic egg in front of it. But as previously mentioned, all the gifts in the subspace have already been priced in secret. What the Lord of the Skull wants is to awaken the craving of the pathogen for power through this blessing. And once there is a craving, everything that follows will naturally follow. The Lord of the Skull, sitting upright on the brass throne, will use all means to make the pathogen lose itself in endless power. Waiting for the final outcome of Gao Wen will only be embracing chaos and becoming a terrifying demon prince. For a tumultuous empire, it will be an immensely hopeless future. The piercing laughter of the Lord of the Skull echoed in the subspace, as if Fearless had already seen the future of Gao Wen's submission under the brass throne. But just as the power from the brass throne was about to come into contact with the pathogen, a cold and magnificent golden light prevented the blessing of terror from coming. At the moment this light appeared, the entire supreme heaven felt the anger of the Lord of Brass. Cursed! The Lord of Brass roared wildly at the unknown name. Cursed, this is the derogatory term of the Chaos Gods for the Emperor. The Emperor could have ascended to become a god in subspace, but he was willing to be forever imprisoned on the Golden Throne for the sake of the Empire and humanity. For the Emperor, the Golden Throne is not a blessing, but an eternal curse. The appearance of the Lord of Humanity disrupted all plans for terror and abuse. Even if terror and abuse were so vast, they could not corrode a genetic pathogen in front of the Lord of Humanity. At the same time, in the physical universe, on the battlefield of the Purgatory star, the sons of the fire dragon who followed Gingan's side were already gone, but their sacrifice was not entirely meaningless. The sacrifices of the sons of the fire dragons bought enough time for General relying on their strong recovery power. The ferocious wound on Gen's shoulder had scabbed. The restored pathogen joined the battlefield again, but the victory goddess still did not smile at the brave imperial warriors. For loyalists, if there is no way to break through the defense of the Chaos Egg, even with the addition of pathogens, it is inevitable to fail. The situation seems to have reached a dead end. But at this moment, a few bright lights suddenly flashed at the far end of the sky. Accompanied by a piercing roar, several golden orbital parachutes landed heavily in front of the Chaos Egg. The Imperial Guards, dressed in golden power armor, stepped out of the airborne pod and launched a fierce attack on this detestable monster as soon as they joined the battlefield. The explosive gun installed at the top of the garrison spear emitted a deafening roar, and under the push of high-energy gunpowder, a mass explosive bullet carrying terrifying kinetic energy shot out of the muzzle. Unlike a stats explosive gun, the weapons used by the Imperial Army are significantly more advanced and powerful. The quality explosive bullet, engraved with the imprint of purity, traced a beautiful arc in the air, accompanied by the dull sound of the bullet entering the flesh. In an instant, more than 10 fist-sized wounds appeared on Chaos Egg's body. The flesh and blood on Chaos Egg wriggled to repair its injuries, but the mass explosion bullet deeply embedded in the flesh and blood suddenly released a terrifying heat. The nauseating burnt smell emanated from this monster, and the self-repair process of Chaos Egg was forced to be interrupted. For loyalists, this is an impeccable opportunity. In the name of the great Emperor, I grant you eternal death. The commander of the Imperial Guard, Valerian, raised his spear high. The Golden Legion, charge with me. More than 10 guards of the Forbidden Army shouted in the name of the Emperor, charging towards the Chaos Egg like a surging golden torrent. The charge of the Golden Legion is far more terrifying than a stats advance. The charge of only a dozen or so soldiers from the Forbidden Army carried a suffocating aura as if facing thousands of troops and horses. Faced with the fierce Golden Legion, the flesh and blood on Chaos Egg wriggled, and the disgusting bloody whip swung again. But this time, the attack of Chaos Egg failed to work against the Forbidden Army. The glorious guards of the Forbidden Army held high their finely crafted chainsaw swords with the emblem of the double-headed eagle, cutting the incoming whip like an undefeated golden god of war. Amidst the piercing roar of the Chaos Egg, the Imperial guards without hesitation plunged their weapon into the monster's body. The precision chainsaw sword used by the Forbidden Army easily pierced through the defensive Chaos Egg, and the golden precision weapon penetrated deeply into the monster's flesh and blood, causing great damage to this detestable monster. But this battle did not end there. The blessing of the brass throne not only gives Chaos Egg powerful power, but also brings it extremely terrifying recovery ability. The Imperial guards temporarily suppressed the Chaos Egg with their powerful power and weapons. However, due to their powerful recovery ability, the warriors were unable to truly kill this monster. At this moment, the dim sky of the Purgatory star was enveloped by a golden light. Accompanied by a light smoke like him, a female warrior in golden armor waved her wings and landed on this brutal battlefield like an angel descending. A gentle and healing golden light scattered, instantly sweeping away the wounds and exhaustion on the soldiers. A face that can intoxicate mortals, wings like feathers of light, coupled with the iconic blade of enthusiasm, the identity of the newcomer is about to be revealed. The living sage of the Emperor. Saint Celestine. Celestine, who landed on the battlefield, did not join the battlefield at the first time. This renowned living saint held a long bronze box in his hands, and his beautiful face was filled with devout words. The Emperor is above. After thousands of years, the Empire has finally welcomed the return of an Emperor's son. Celestine knelt down on one knee and offered his loyalty to the genetic pathogen. As a living saint of the Emperor, Celestine's trip has a very important mission. Not only Celestine, but even the Golden Legion that descended before also came for this mission. And this task, which is enough to affect the future of the Empire, is related to the long box escorted by Celestine and the Imperial Legion. This is a gift prepared by the Emperor for your return. The living sage held the long box in front of the pathogen. It is a gift from the Emperor, but also represents endless responsibility. When the pathogen's palm touches the long box, the precision machinery hidden inside the box starts on its own. Accompanied by a pleasant mechanical sound, the long box opened in response.